I will now recount a story told to me by my close friend David, who once lived in a poor village in southern Vietnam during the 1960s. Back then, whenever the harvest season ended, the quiet countryside would suddenly become lively when traveling opera troupes arrived. In the evenings, after their humble meals, villagers called one another to go watch the performances. Poor children, who had no money for tickets, would sneak around the stage, peeking through cracks in the fence or climbing up walls just to catch a glimpse. Each time the music of the Vong echoed, some folks would clap their thighs loudly in excitement, no matter how annoying it was to others. Among the performers in one particular troupe was a man named Thomas. Because the group lacked actors, he had to play both the main male role and, at times, even dress as a woman for female parts. Still, the audience was captivated, for live performances were rare luxuries in the countryside. Yet, one fateful night, something strange and terrifying occurred. During a sorrowful scene of a young maiden, Thomas's voice suddenly changed. He no longer followed the script. Instead, he began to sing obscene verses that shocked everyone. His eyes glared wickedly, and his movements turned vulgar, as though an unseen force had taken control of him. The audience stirred uneasily. Children screamed, women gasped, and even the bravest men looked at one another in confusion. His co-star, a young actress named Lily, trembled in fear as Thomas lunged toward her, trying to tear her costume apart. The stage descended into chaos. The troupe's manager turned pale. He knew well that spirits often love to haunt and disturb opera stages, but never had he seen such madness in the middle of a show, with no spiritual master around to help. Thomas raged like a beast. His voice shifted wildly, sometimes deep like an old man, other times shrill like a woman. He screamed curses in a language no one understood. Men from the crowd tried to hold him down, but the moment they touched him, they were thrown aside as if an invisible force shielded his body. Desperation filled the air. The manager cried out, "Bring the Guan Gong costume! Only Guan Gong can subdue such demons." A supporting actor named Michael quickly donned the red armor, tied the golden belt, and painted the fierce black beard and phoenix eyes. With the massive green dragon crescent blade in hand, he stepped onto the stage. From that instant, everything changed. His bearing was no longer that of a mere actor. His posture exuded divine authority, and his voice thundered across the open air. "Evil spirits, show yourselves! How dare you desecrate this stage?" Thomas froze. His body convulsed, his eyes rolled, and from his throat came three separate voices, shrieking and wailing. The audience held their breath, too afraid to move. Michael, no, it seemed Guan Gong himself had descended, raised the crescent blade high. With a mighty swing, he slashed 3 times in rapid succession. The sound was like thunder tearing through the night. Thomas collapsed to the ground. From his body rose 3 shadowy figures, writhing and howling in anguish, before scattering into the darkness. The crowd gasped. Miraculously, Thomas bore no wounds. When he awoke, he wept uncontrollably, kneeling before the figure of Guan Gong, begging for forgiveness, before fainting once more. Thomas collapsed to the ground. From his body rose 3 shadowy figures, writhing and howling in anguish, before scattering into the darkness. The crowd gasped. Miraculously, Thomas bore no wounds. When he awoke, he wept uncontrollably, kneeling before the figure of Guan Gong, begging for forgiveness, before fainting once more. The villagers never forgot that night. They whispered to one another, "Wherever there is music and performance, spirits often linger. But once Guan Gong appears, no demon dares to remain." This story, as my friend David swore, was true. Even today, he shudders when recalling it, as though the smell of blood and the echoes of those demonic cries still linger in the air. A true ghost story from Vietnam. If you believe in such tales of the supernatural, make sure to subscribe to True Ghost Encounters so you won't miss the next chilling story.